Okay guys, well we are probably a little pushed for time, so if I speak very fast, it's because of that reason. I guess start off, this presentation, first of all I just wanted to sort of step back and talk a little bit about our organisational context, why we register for the rating, give you a bit of an overview of the Roads and Services project, our objectives for doing the IS rating. I wanted to showcase, I guess, the ferry terms, really just to raise their profile so you know what they are and why we did it. And then talk briefly about, I guess, next steps for the ferry terms and for our organisation in this sort of sustainability space. So I'll briefly run through these first slides, but essentially we had a triple SEQ certification back in 2004, and that's when I think the sustainability journey began. So this is before I was at the port. We started defining sustainability, what we thought it meant, and then I think around 2003, during that time was when the WA State Sustainability Strategy came out from the Department of Premier and Cabinet. So we grabbed that, we basically put on 15 professionals, created a new business sustainability division in 2007 and started to really work through, you know, what is it, what does it mean to us. I think we did a few other things. Australian Business Excellence Framework, we got a gold level award in 2007. It recognised success and sustainability as a strength. We did, many of you may have heard of the Dow Jones Index, which is a sustainability index. We rated well against that, but we did find it difficult because there was really a lack of guidance on implementation at that stage, especially with respect to decision making and governance. So we then asked our stakeholders, I guess, our stakeholders and customers, so mainly our business customers, stakeholders being, you know, predominantly local community and container terminals, shipping lines and others. And we wrote about what mattered to them, and then we wrote some business principles to basically to inform our strategic planning and identify what indicators to measure. So these are what we've been operating on now for some time. I'm not going to go there, there's lots of words there, but essentially they're the sort of quadruple bottom line principles. They're our sustainability policy, and they basically embody how we make decisions and take into account, I guess, what our stakeholders and what our business needs are. We go back annually, as Jane mentioned in her presentation earlier, to engage, I guess, our community and our stakeholders, customer surveys, to review this and to make sure we're still on track. And really what we wanted to do with the rating then was to verify their application with a framework, with a new framework, which the IS rating provided. So then briefly, the Rouse Head project, it's a 24.5 million. So there were two components. It was designed by, the designer was ACOM and the construction was Bridie, so they weren't design and construct together. The objective of the project was to provide roads and services to 5 new industrial lots, which you'll see later over the other side. 27 hectares of land that was reclaimed. Jeremy mentioned earlier, he was on the panel, he did an audit on the material that was there. So that was part of that process, I guess. You see the site as it is down there with the red box. The main objectives, I suppose, were to improve road geometry, so that was really around safety, fulfil demand for empty container parking. So obviously ports need a lot of land area to store container parks, and so that would basically provide for us the capacity to grow into the future. Truck marshalling facilities, which is another, I guess, bit that we'll come to a bit later in Michael's talk, and I guess another main one there was to improve the landside road and rail access to berths. So principally, I'll show you perhaps in the next slide how that was done. A key driver again was safety, really straightening out the roads, improving the geometry, and making, I guess, separating light and heavy vehicles. So basically then, as I mentioned, the reason for registering the project was for verification of really what was our BAU. At this stage, we had already completed the design. 100% design was complete. We were basically going through the throes of getting the tender documentation together when we registered, and we did that, I guess, with that knowledge that we'd be basically just verifying or looking at what we had done to see how well, at least on the design side, we managed to incorporate the principles and then evaluate them with the criteria that was in the rating. I guess Chris talked earlier about the importance of good collaboration and understanding roles, and particularly engaging at that project initiation phase. And I think the point here is that we didn't really have that opportunity, but we were aware of that and went into it with our eyes open. We thought really from, I think, previous evaluations that we'd done that we were, we were above BAU, but again, we were just really trying to determine how well we were doing. So I guess I've got some main features of the site here. We'll see them over there. You can see the red circles. So we've basically, one of the major design features was separating light and heavy vehicles. So you can see, I think this thing might even have a pointer, but you can see the road running around the outside along the seawall. That's a light vehicle road. So light vehicles, public vehicles.
Use that one.
Oh, cool. So that's that road there. Previously, all the traffic used to be on the road together, so you'd have heavy vehicles and light vehicles using the same roads, and you'd have potential for conflict. One of the main sort of features was to separate those vehicles, and also we're able to put in a dual-use path around the outside to provide some connectivity to the North Mole. So that's a pedestrian and bicycle dual-use path. I guess some of the other objectives are around obviously reducing truck congestion, so the efficiency of truck movements through. So that included basically the creation of these. So the roads essentially petitioned these lots. These main lots really for container logistics and container storage, and then the truck marshalling area, which I guess Michael's going to talk about in a little bit more detail, was basically allows us to basically marshal trucks, reduce congestions, get them off roads when we have issues with queuing and so on the roads. The other issue was around access to the rail terminal. So this terminal has actually been extended. One of the great, I guess, sustainability drivers is to push more trucks from roads and get the containers onto rail. And to do that, you need to, I guess, have a longer terminal, and you need to. We've removed the road from beside the railway terminal, to allow, I guess, access between the container parks and the railway, and also, importantly, from the berth face. So that enables you to more efficiently move more containers, and it also enables you to drive more, hopefully make rail more competitive and get more boxes on the rail. So the state government's got a target to increase rail share of container trade to 30%, and I think it's currently at about 15. So basically to double it. So that's a challenge. So we just switching back to the IS rating then, I guess just outline the highest scoring categories really around management, community health, wellbeing and safety, innovation, ecology and waste, as was mentioned before. And I guess personally I like this mix. I think it reflects our priorities, and if you look at our context, our social context and our port context, we're a port city, these suit us very well. The management category, I think just reflects, I guess, the maturity of the SEQ systems, which have been running for a long time now. The community health, wellbeing and safety, again, we're a city port. We put a lot of attention and intention into making life better for port users and the local community here. So seeing a good result in that area was important to us. Innovation, Michael's going to talk about that, but again, we scored really well in that area. And ecology. So I was going to talk a little bit more about that. So you heard, I think, spoken about today, the Australian ferry terns and the creation of a managed area over at Rouse Head. So just a brief bit of information about the ferry terns. They're a threatened vulnerable species. They migrate over the summer months down to basically the southwest, and they generally inhabit estuary mouths, so areas where I guess there's a lot of development and recreational pressure, so I guess their habitat is under threat, and for that reason their population numbers have been declining until recently, 4 or 5 years ago, they became listed. So they nest on beaches essentially, and their eggs are very hard to see and they're easily disturbed. So basically this is what the site looked like prior to the project. So this is the outcome of the Inner Harbour Deepening project in 2009-2010. Basically a very nice sandy reclamation area and perfect real estate, not just for developers or for, as someone was saying before, but for fairy terns as well as us. So really good proximity to food at the mouth of the estuary, perfect substrate for them to create their scrapes, heterogeneous, like the shelly sort of sands that are dredged, create cover for their eggs, so camouflage basically, and reduces their risk of predation. So yep, in they came, and that's a chick there. So during construction, I guess, it was interesting. I think the first day that the Bridie went down to survey the main road, Road 1, the call from the site engineer was, I've got some birds nesting down here, not sure what they are, better come down and take a look. So this is, at this stage, I think prior to this time, we'd seen fairy terns in wall batters and other areas in small numbers around the port, but over the couple of years while the reclamation area had sat there, they really, I guess, cottoned on to what it was, and it decided to come back, and they came back in increasing numbers, particularly this year. So there was a challenge, and I won't go into all of the challenges around the construction, but we're very happy. And Beck was Rebecca James, our other environmental advisor, was I guess the project advisor for that, and she managed those licences. And with Bridie, we found they were very sort of pragmatic about changing the construction program to allow the eggs to incubate over, I guess, 2 weeks, and then working in other areas. So it was a pretty successful campaign, and if anyone gets into a position where they need to work in this kind of circumstance, give us a call. We've got lots of lessons to share. Not time for them today, though, I'm afraid. So post-construction, I think it was really sort of during the construction we identified, I guess, an area, 3,400 metre square site, which was, I guess, initially earmarked for a number of uses. So principally a car park, but if you look back at the planning studies, running back to sort of 5-10 years ago, there are all sorts of ideas there, multiple use sites. So I guess the key there was that we engaged widely with our local community, users of the infrastructure, with, for example, Port Beach polar bears, who use the beach next door. We discussed with them, okay, well, there's plenty of opportunities to use the site. One of the I guess suggestions initially had been that we'd have some public open space there, some grassed area for community use. It was the entrance to the park, and so then we went into this engagement about, well, what is the best use of this area. And so that took, I guess, over some months, came to some time, and we engaged, we worked with, I guess, a number of organisations. So, Department of Environment, WA Museum were probably the curator there, Ron Johnson and John Donnell. They were on site advising us how high to build it, where to, stockpile sand separately to use as a cover layer, how to we actually flipped the whole design around. To accommodate the terns, to make it sort of so that we would be providing them the best, I guess, lure for them to come and use the site. Because ultimately we were concerned that we'd do this and then they wouldn't come. So that because they don't just come where you want them. They can move around. So we were all fingers crossed. But we worked with those guys, determined the site requirements, and managed to get it done. So basically where we are now with the fairy terns at Rouse Head, so we're, I guess, continuing to sort of monitor them. So there's a definite benefit, I guess, of managed areas. So Natural areas are really, I guess, becoming more scarce, as I've sort of alluded to at the beginning. Sites like we've got over at Rouse House are really easy to observe, and they're really easily maintained. They're right there. They can be fenced. They can keep people out. You can control access to them, and these are all the kinds of things that at the moment are I guess, providing causing the pressures and threatening the species. So, what we have learned, I think, particularly from the beginning of this process of putting it out there, what do guys think about a fairy tern sanctuary? Some of the initial feedback we had was, get it out of there. That's a port. Conservation groups and others were very opposed to it. They thought it was they should be managed in essentially in pristine areas, and that they weren't compatible with dirty ports. Essentially, that was the feedback we had. Now, some of those groups, and in fact, all of them are real, I guess, champions and partners in the ongoing management of the sanctuary. So, I think it was just a lesson learned for us is that these managed areas, and I guess the message I want to get out there is there will be opposition to them at the beginning, particularly from conservation groups and bird groups, given where they are. But it's the net environmental benefit we've seen over the 3 seasons there. The numbers of the successful production of chicks has skyrocketed. So I think we're up to, we mentioned earlier, but I think it was about 380 adult pairs, and we're banding the chicks, and we're really seeing it is working, and it's probably one of the most sort of successful sites around the southwest. So again, if it's there in your project, there's an opportunity to do it. Get out, engage, and don't be afraid. And so I'll probably there. I'll just wrap up with one slide, I guess. The ports have got the Fremantle ports have got a new business plan. We've got some new goals. I think in light of the rating, we need to identify the specific opportunities that are in there, align them with what that business plan and what those goals are saying that we want to focus on, and then I guess we want to look at some testing to see how well, again, we've implemented them. So we'll feed them into our process. We've got our SEQ processes, so we'll feed them in, and hopefully we'll be back again talking at another time, perhaps after an operational rating, or possibly through a Ports Australia process. We're starting to look at this all again now, and that briefly is it. Thanks.